Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring today's most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mok-yeon. The National Assembly voted Saturday to impeach President Yoon Suk Yeol over his botched imposition of martial law. The impeachment motion against Yoon passed 204 to 85 with 3 abstentions and 8 invalid ballots. Now, following this, Yoon said that he will never succumb to the threat of impeachment, adding that he will do his very best for the country until the end. The latest move has suspended Yoon's presidential powers. Attention now turns to the proceedings at the Constitutional Court, which could face difficulties in part because it's short of a full complement of justices. Currently, only 6 of its 9 positions are filled. The court has set the first preparatory hearing for Yoon on December 27th. For a detailed discussion on this, we invite into the studio attorney An Jun-sung. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
And also joining us is Jo Hee-kyung, a professor at Hongik University's College of Law. Great to have you with us.
Hello, good to join you.
So let's start with Mr. An. So unlike the first impeachment vote, there were 12 votes in favor, 3 abstentions, and 8 invalid votes from the ruling party. What do you think is the background behind the increased number of defections within the party?
Well, I think there's a couple of points. The first one is political pressure. I think that all PPP members receive increasing political pressure from the general public. For example, about 2 million protesters were gathered in front of the National Assembly on the 14th. So I think although the police have a different figure, and I think that's to have a significant impact on them. And second is the political realization of reality. And I think that many PPP members was very surprised to find the fact that there was recent revelation of the incriminating evidence and then the testimonies against President Yun on December 3rd. So that's very significant, and then they're kind of changing a mood that they need to, I think there's kind of not consensus, there's growing member of the PPP members thinking about that the true gravity of the situation. So I think that's the one, more like a reality check. What should we do next? I think kind of a reality check at this moment.
Right. And regarding this, Professor Cho, after the impeachment motion has passed, President Yoon made a public statement soon after, and he said, "I will pause for a moment, but I will never give up." How would you interpret this?
Well, I would actually add to Attorney An's list of what changed between the first impeachment vote and the second. Yoon's very declaration that you just referred to, the 29 minutes statement that he made, which I believe was pre-recorded, which seemed to really show that he either doesn't recognize or is not able to accept the gravity of what he has done. And I think that might have really made some of the PPP lawmakers realize how out of touch Yoon is with reality and how he really poses a danger and threat, not only to the nation and the people, but to themselves as well. So the statement that he made in that declaration saying that I will never give up, I will fight till the end, I took it in 2 ways. I think he really means to defend himself against the impeachment resolution before the Constitutional Court. I think he's said as much that he will be acting as his own defense counsel, although I believe that he's actually trying to get together a defense team. And the second is that it was, I believe, a call to his diehard supporters to assure them and to tell them never give up on him. I think he truly believes that the impeachment motion won't pass and that he will be restored to the office. But it's really difficult to see that kind of situation unfolding.
So he has his firm belief on that part. Now, the Constitutional Court has already begun the impeachment trial process for Yoon, and it's expected that he will focus on the Constitutional Court's impeachment proceedings. Professor, what do you think will be the key issues in the impeachment trial?
Well, in this particular case, the facts are pretty clear. I would say it's almost like an open and shut case. And I think the National Assembly, the lawmakers actually did a really a thorough job trying to make the case as simple and straightforward and almost kind of, evidencing itself, because what they did do was to concentrate really on the unconstitutional declaration of emergency martial law. And they have included in the motion of impeachment the two statements that the president has actually made himself, which really incriminates him with regard to the unconstitutionality of his conduct. And also included in the statement is a lot of testimonies that have been given by members of the cabinet with regard to procedural irregularities pointing to the unconstitutional nature, as well as evidence given in the National Assembly by high-level military officers who have received orders down the chain of command from Yoon or from Yoon personally, directly themselves. So things like, a military commander coming out to say that he received direct order from Yoon to telling him that a quorum has not been reached yet in the National Assembly hall, so break down the doors and drag out the lawmakers. You cannot have a more clear evidence of the fact that Yoon was responsible for this unconstitutional declaration of emergency martial law. So all of that is actually in the statement. And so factually, I don't think it will be very difficult. However, procedurally, we do have some issues that need to be addressed because, as you also mentioned, there are only 6 judges on the bench currently, so 3 should be filled, although technically it is possible to make the decision just with the 6 as long as they reach a unanimous decision. But there will always be a question hanging over it regarding the legitimacy of making such a significant and serious and important decision just with 6 instead of the full bench of the court. And that process is already well underway. Other issues that the court will face will be obviously defenses that will be mounted by Yoon, and he will be throwing everything he's got at the court. He will be engaged in delaying tactics. He will be raising all sorts of legal arguments, but I believe that basically they will be of no use, and he won't be able to avoid being impeached or having the impeachment motion accepted and passed by the court.
Right. Now, as our Professor Cho just mentioned, Mr. An, the Constitutional Court must either uphold or reject the motion within 180 days, and only 6 of the court justices are on their seats. So how do you foresee things with them not being complete?
Yes, under the Korean Constitutional Court Act, there are 2 different quorum requirements. For the court review, you need the 7 justices required. However, that specific provision is being suspended at this moment. So technically, you can proceed with that without that provision. And there's other quorum requirement is for the decision, court decision, and then simple majority required in general. So it means 5 out of 9 votes are required to make a decision. However, for the impeachment cases, a supermajority, which means 2/3, is required for the make any decision. So that would be 6 out of 9. But however, currently we have only 6 justices. The question is that it's not clear on the law because the law only says 2 quorum requirement, right? And then it's for the quorum requirement for the court review and decision. For the decision part, and only requires 6 votes. Doesn't say have to be 9. Right, so the law does not say you have to be 9. But so, we assume that we have a full bench when they write a law. I'm sure they make it the law way. With under the full bench system, we need 6. So, question is a 6 out of 6 is the legally sufficient to 6 out of 9? That's kind of the things we have to talk about. But I think that the PPP and the DP side try to speed up the appointment process for special, not that justice appointment process. So they need to remedy the issue before it happens. And also, there's other issue on the procedural side on the criminal Constitutional Court, and then if the President Yun does not show up on the oral argument, they give another chance, and then if he fails to show up on twice, and they will proceed it. That means that according to the news articles, right, he tried to be actively participate in the litigation, unlike the former President Park Geun-hye. So he could kill a lot of time, actually, to delay the time, wait to say, skipping first and waiting for the second, oral argument and delaying and sending more evidence. Litigation strategy, I think he can extend the litigation itself pretty much longer than we anticipated, technically.
Right, but the National Assembly plans to complete the appointment process for the vacant Constitutional Court justices by the end of a year. But since appointing justices, as far as I know, is the president's exclusive authority, there could be debates about whether these appointments are legitimate under the acting president. Professor Cho, what's your thoughts on this?
For these three particular vacancies, they are actually for the National Assembly to nominate. So if you look at Article 6 of Constitutional Court Act, you're supposed to have 9 justices on the bench. And it says that all appointments are made by the president. However, 3 shall be nominated by the National Assembly, 3 by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. So it means that the remaining 3 are directly appointed by the president. And those justices to be appointed by the president actually have to go through the National Assembly hearing process, whereas the other 6, 3 nominated by the National Assembly, 3 by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, don't have to. Now, interestingly, the vacant 3 seats on the bench are actually those who are supposed to be filled through nominations by the National Assembly. But Yun refused to basically accept nominations from the National Assembly because DP was in the majority. And so they had more say in who was going to be nominated. And so because these are National Assembly nominations anyway, the president really could only confirm if you're observing the letter and the spirit of the law. And so although Prime Minister Han technically has the power to appoint, he has to appoint the nominees that are put forward by the National Assembly, particularly for these 3 seats. So I believe that there won't be any problem with Prime Minister Han refusing to appoint these nominees that are currently being processed through the nomination process. However, I think what Yun was plotting or planning was that out of the existing 6 justices, 2 are former president's appointments, i.e. appointed under Moon Jae-in administration under president's appointment power. And so I think he was actually trying to delay, or he will be trying to delay the actual trial process until April next year, when these 2 more progressive justices on the Constitutional Court are due to step down and somehow get the acting president, i.e. Prime Minister Han, to fill those 2 vacancies. But I believe that the court will come to a decision much, much, much earlier than that.
So we could expect the whole bench to be completed in a few months now. Now, with the passage of the impeachment motion against President Yoon, investigations into charges of insurrection are likely to accelerate, Mr. An. As soon as Yoon has been rejecting the prosecution's summons to appear for questioning, authorities have now an option to seek a court-issued arrest warrant. How do you expect the investigation to proceed?
It's very interesting at this moment, because I think that he needs to talk to his lawyer very carefully, and then maybe the lawyer have to very good legal advice, because there are 2 proceedings happening at the same time, criminal and constitutional court, right? In principle, both cases proceedings can go in tandem, means that they can can be proceeded concurrently, right? Technically speaking. So what happened was that if President Yoon tried to be actively participate in the oral argument in the constitutional court, he need to do the same thing at the criminal court, theoretically, right?
Right.
If he don't, he gotta skip
Right.
skip the criminal court and do the on constitutional court. It doesn't make sense, right? Also, I think that from legal perspective, the criminality of his, the self-coup and the constitutionality of self-coup is not necessarily the same. And I'm carefully predict that there's some chance actually that he might not found guilty by the criminal court. Because then the criminal case, the prosecution have to prove the guilty mind, right? Guilty mind beyond a reasonable doubt, which he tried to make a big argument, said, he did not intend to do it. It have to be purposefully, intentionally to do that, right? And the prosecution have to prove it. But however, in the constitutional, it's more like quasi-political question, right? It's not necessary. The Constitutional Court looking at the fact, not only the law, whether is it really subverted constitution of the South Korea, right? So is subverting to subvert constitution is quite broad, interpretation possible, right? So I think that the thing what happened was that he needed to get really big strategy for him, litigation strategy, and in a way it happened. And legally speaking, the Korean Constitutional Court may suspend the criminal proceeding under the KCC Act. However, I don't think they want to do that because it's not really overlapping. They're talking about the same count, basically two counts, right? The insurrection, the treason charge, and then abuse of power, basically. But however, I don't think they're gonna be suspend the criminal proceeding. They will go in tandem for a while, and then in the time, if they have to slow down the criminal procedure side, and the criminal court will, voluntarily slow down and wait for the Constitutional Court to make decision, and then they do right after. So I don't think there's any problem procedurally, but problem is how Yoon do the oral argument. If he really want to be himself, if I'm his lawyer, please be quiet. Don't talk and just listen to. Well, because it could be like a Miranda right, anything he said in the court can be used against him. That's very serious because the criminal court and constitutional using the different legal standard. If we're using, perhaps he's making argument, I'm not guilty. In making same argument, the Constitutional Court can theoretically use it against him for the impeachment. So there's technical things, right?
Now, what about you, Professor Cho? Some argue that if President Yoon is indicted on charges of insurrection, the Constitutional Court impeachment trial might be put to a halt for a while. How do you view the situation?
The Constitutional Court has the ability to do that. So Article 51 of Constitutional Court Act says that if there is a concurrent criminal proceedings ongoing during an impeachment trial, they can suspend the impeachment trial until the outcome of the criminal proceedings are made clear, or basically they reach a verdict in the criminal trial. But I don't think they will be doing that because this is such a serious and important case. And we have currently a vacuum. I mean, we have the acting president, but the situation being what it is, he really cannot exercise the full powers of the office of president. And we have really pressing issues, both domestically and internationally, that requires a president's attention. We've got Trump coming into the White House very soon, next January, and he will be, really bring us under the grill with regard to a whole wide range of things, from trade to security to everything that he has. And so, we have not enough time even to gather together a team to essentially negotiate with that particular difficult diplomatic issue. All sorts of other challenges face us economically, socially. And so the Constitutional Court is unlikely to basically drag the process, that nor is this impeachment trial so unclear or irregular that they really need to wait for the outcome of a criminal trial against Yoon. So they won't be, I don't think they will be suspending their impeachment trial. In fact, I think we will most likely have a result in the Constitutional Court much earlier than how long it took in Park Geun-hye's impeachment trial, which was around 3 months. I think we're talking in terms of weeks rather than months here.
Right, as we have a lot of things to face, whether it's diplomatically or politically. Now, with the passage of the impeachment motion of President Yoon, Prime Minister Han Duck-soo has now become the acting president of South Korea. Mr. An, can you remind us of the powers of the acting president?
Yeah, we can start with compare with the U.S. and U.S. have the designated successor. Basically, there's something permanent vacancy at the president's office. The vice president become the president, right? But Korea is not the designated survivor system. It's only acting president, right? Means that it's not really president, but act like president, right? So there's a different issue for the permanent vacancy situation, right? They basically now it's a temporary vacancy because on the Constitutional Court will start already initiate the impeachment process. What happened was that for the temporarily, the prime minister be acting president, and then after the Constitutional Court decide to avoid the impeachment motion, and happened was that it becomes the permanent vacancy. That means the law provides 60-day window for the election for new president. So there will be the additional 60 days for him to do as the acting president. And we're looking at a big picture here. Under the Korean law, the prime minister take the presidential power technically, and means that not former. Yoon Suk Yeol has his power suspended, and however, the prime minister shared the presidential privilege, let's say, more like the living in the mansion, security services, something like that. So it's more like share. But technically speaking, the law, if you look at the actual provisions, doesn't really specify what to do, what to not to do by the prime minister, acting president. So technically speaking, he can do whatever he wants, but legally yes, but politically no, because he is on the also in the list for the March December 3rd self-coup kind of participant member. So it's kind of still under investigation. So I don't think he can make any trouble to anybody because you need to speed up remove the uncertainty in the Korean politics.
Right, and as our Mr. An just mentioned, acting President Han Duck-soo has also been accused of insurrection. It's expected that performing normal duties will not be quite easy for him as well. Professor Cho, what measures can be taken now to minimize national instability and leadership vacuum going forward?
Yes, I understand that certainly the DP lawmakers were actually considering whether to pass a motion to impeach Prime Minister Han, but in the end, they decided not to for the sake of stability and a measure of certainty. Given the situation, it would be difficult for Prime Minister Han to exercise the full scope of powers of the presidential office actively. Certainly not even the way that Hwang Kyo-wan carried out his duties while he was acting in the same capacity once Park Geun-hye was impeached. I think he would be exercising minimal scope of powers that is basically given to him under the Constitution as the acting president, and that would be essentially confirmation of decisions made by the National Assembly. And in all matters, he will have to consult very closely with the National Assembly and the Speaker of the National Assembly, because which of the two organs do we have in our particular model of democracy that have direct mandate from the people, the popular mandate? And it is really the president who's elected directly in a presidential election, and the National Assembly whose lawmakers are also directly elected through the general election. And so right now, one is essentially suspended from duties, and so we have the acting president taking over. And so the only remaining organ with direct popular mandate is the National Assembly. So that means that the PM cannot just do whatever willy-nilly. He really has to consult very closely with the National Assembly.
Right. I'm afraid we'll have to leave our discussion right here. Many thanks again to Professor Cho and Mr. An for your insights tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That'll be all from us on Within the Frame. Be sure to tune in next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Until then, stay informed and engaged.